Hello, everybody. Welcome to Kevali Channeling Presents. I would like to say it's the first episode, but really it's not. The first episode was so many years ago. I'm just restarting it, and I'm freaking so excited because we have a special guest tonight. I'm not even going to waste time because I want as much time with him as possible. This gentleman started it all for me. If you look up on the wall here, I have 4 certificates. There should be another 10 for all the stuff him and I have done over the years. But it started in July 12th, 2020, when I took a course. And I didn't even want to take the course. I'm going to be honest. I didn't want to take the course. I was kind of talked into it to take the course. And I met this guy. I won't even tell you. I'm not allowed to tell you what I thought of him when he first came on the screen. We have become very, very good friends over the years. He is none other than Mr. Ken Lewicki from channelinginc.com. Sir, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Yeah, I remember that you were coming in, kicking and screaming when you first met, and here we are
I,
now. How many years later? I have goosebumps
I
everywhere.
I tell this story so often, Ken, that when I first agreed to take your course, my thought was, okay, I'm going to take this course and I'm going to be able to shut all this stuff down. And it was, I say it all the time, it was 10 minutes into level 1, a little light bulb finally went off in my head at 55 years old. And I went, oh, this is what I'm supposed to be doing. And of course, Ken and I got to know each other over the years. I took 4 courses with you, or the 3, and then the mentoring program, because that's what you had back then.
Yes.
And we became very good friends over the years. I know, and I take a deep breath because it's like it's a bizarre student teacher turned just good friends.
Well, and to think like how much you've evolved since I met you, and like changed and grown and
Oh,
thrived, and like all the journey you've gone through, and it's just spectacular to see. Like now you're known as Kevin the Medium, and like look at you go, and
it's
so tuned in. And
if somebody would have told me in 2019 that I'd be referred to as Kevin the Medium, I would have loved
Well, I look at you and I go, if this can happen for you, it can happen for anyone. And like we all
oh,
have these gifts, and we can all like learn to tune into our spiritual gifts, and really do amazing things with it to help better our lives, to help better other people's lives if you choose, and it's just such a beautiful way as society that we can go. And I choose to dedicate my life to this for that specific reason. And the reason is because the way that our parents and grandparents have been doing things just ain't working anymore as a society. If we need to not just survive but thrive, we need to do things differently in a healthier way. And I strongly feel that like people learning to channel at very advanced levels can totally change society and make a huge massive difference in like the trajectory of our. It's not the only ingredient that we need, but it's one of the important ones as far as I'm concerned. Because could you imagine how much better the world would be if everyone knew how to channel at advanced levels and were doing what they were really meant to do? Like
you.
that's why I dedicate my life to this. That's why like I have goosebumps right
I
now. And
got
just
goosebumps on my goosebumps. You actually said to me, I think it might have been in between level 1 and 2. No, it was in between level 2 and 3. That's when we really got to know each other. And you said to me, can you imagine if all 8 billion people on Earth woke up
right.
tomorrow morning and said, I'm going to learn to channel? Would it be a perfect world? Probably not, but it would be a whole lot better. Ken, I stole that. I use it on a regular basis because
Please
it's
do, yeah.
just the truest fact I've ever heard. But you haven't always done this. This isn't something, I always go quotation marks, a gift that you were 2 years old and you went, oh, I'm going to be a psychic and I'm going to teach people how to channel. That's not how
Well,
it happened for you.
yeah, I was one of those kids. I don't know if anyone can relate to this, but I was one of those kids in the backyard, and that my parents would say, "Oh, that's just Ken talking to his imaginary friends," and all that. it though. I was channeling. I was talking with my spirit guides, and then of course through society and just like I didn't want to be teased and all that, so I shut all those gifts down. And then it wasn't until 2001 that I had a reawakening. And like I was in IT, like I loved IT, and I was even after I had my spiritual awakening in 2004. Sorry, 2004. Um, then I kept being in IT for quite a few years, and IT was good for me. I really enjoyed it. So I was very like heady and very like if you can't prove it, it's not real kind of attitude. And but I think of it like a light spectrum. If you think of it like the rainbow colors, you
Yeah,
have those that we can see. And 200, 500,000 years ago, we didn't have technology that could see the other range of the electromagnetic field, but now we could see the infrared and the ultraviolet. And if you look at a flower with the infrared, it looks totally different than the ultraviolet than it looks with our eyes. Same thing if you look at the stars, we could look at a star and we could star system and we could look at it with the infrared and the ultraviolet, and it looks totally different. That it's always been there. We just didn't have the technology to observe it and see it. And
yeah.
now we have current technology that can capture spirits on camera. You might have seen them on like ghost hunter shows and stuff like that. But they didn't have that technology 20 years ago. So I thought I was losing my mind. I thought I was like going crazy. I'm like, am I just making this up? I'm like,
So when did you actually have you? I'm going to use the word awakening, and it's such a cliche word, but when can you pinpoint? Like I can pinpoint mine was
yeah,
July 12th, 2020. That's when the things really changed. Even though I heard and saw and felt things other people didn't all my life, but that
yeah.
was the moment.
Yeah, and just to clarify, like a lot of people over my experience of the years, a lot of my students, they'll have like a gradual spiritual awakening, and some have it like more like abrupt or very like pinpoint. In mine, it was in June 2nd, 2004. When I was a kid, I had like, full blown alcoholic problems, drinking. I was drinking like crazy. And then I had a situation with the law. I never got a criminal record, thank goodness. But I did have the law involved, and then 2 days later, I came home and the whole house was empty. My wife and had left and had left with my daughter. We're no longer married, but she ended up taking my daughter. And then I came home and I was like bawling. I was in shambles. And I went into my daughter's room. I got on my hands and knees and I prayed for help for my alcohol addiction. And that was the turning point. 2 days later, I tried to drink the remaining of my whiskey in the freezer, and I just couldn't do it. So I poured it down the drain, and I haven't touched any drugs or alcohol since. Been 100% sober. And that was I started going to Alcoholics Anonymous, and then they started talking about finding a power of your understanding, whatever that might look like. So then I started delving into spirituality and different spirit realms, different religions. And then, I joined like a Christian church, and I was doing things way beyond what the pastors were doing. And they're like, wow, how is Ken doing this? Like I'm channeling spirits and souls and all this. And they were like, kind of like, you're not supposed to be able to do that. Only we are. I was just like, well, I don't know. It's just happening. Like, what do you want me to say? And so I
Yeah.
ended up being on the leadership team and all this other kind of cool stuff. Um, but the real like what happened was in 2001, my dad died, and in 2004 he became my spirit guide, and then he taught me how to channel so I could teach others how to channel. And I started developing courses and curriculum, and I'd fill up a room of 30, 40, 50 people and start to teach them how to channel. And then eventually I started developing like my channeling curriculum and my courses and my programs, and then expanding on it, like you said, like it was one day, started out one day, and then eventually expanded to 2 days. And if you take all the workshops, like 16 hours of level one, 16 hours level two, 16 hours level three, 60, like all those courses, it's maybe 1 to 2% about what I know about channeling. And then that's where now I have like my mastermind classes, and that's where I teach the really, really, really advanced channeling training. But you have to qualify for that one because you need these foundation ones.
Yes.
And for me, though, Kevin, it started out actually really slow. Like I would be sitting here in a room, like complete silence, and I would just be sitting there, like minding my own business, like meditating with my eyes closed. And then over many months, this was way back in 2004, I would feel like a presence in the room. I was like, oh, okay, whatever. And then a few more months later, sometimes I would feel that presence move. And then a few months later, I would get a word or two from that presence, and then a few months later, I would get maybe a sentence or two, and then a few months later, I realized it was my father who had died in 2001, and then from there we kept working, and then eventually over time, I was able to not just get like words here and there, but actually full blown sentences and have full blown conversations with him. So,
That's
but
so
it
cool.
took me a while. Like it wasn't like it was just like some people are just like, oh, I have a spiritual awakening. I'm talking to spirits all the time. It's like no, I had to actually develop the skills. But the good thing about that is I can relate to new people who are in that position because I
Yeah.
get basically two categories. One is new people that are like they're like awakened, they're totally connected, like super strong already, and then I get other ones that were like me, where they're like it takes time to develop it, and it's so I think I feel a presence. That's how I was. So I could totally relate to them, and because of that, I can help them go up that learning curve quicker and faster.
So this isn't just a gift one or two people on earth have. This is a gift that the creator, we will just call him the creator for lack of a better word, gave everybody that every soul that it said, I want to incarnate on earth. Every
Yeah,
soul has this ability to do this.
that's correct. Yes, and the two things that I help people do is one is teach them how to be aware and conscious of what everyone has, all 8 billion people. We all can channel, we've all channeled. And I say to people, I'm like, have you ever like had someone come up to you and tell you a message and like, wow, how did you know to say that? That's exactly what I needed to hear. And they're like, I don't know, it just kind of came to me. Most likely it's because they were channeling your guides through them to you. They were channeling that message through you to you through like your guides. Or have you ever gone up to somebody and given somebody a message and they're like, crying or like have this big aha moment and they're just like, wow, how did you know to say that? And you're like, I don't know, it just kind of came to me. Most likely that's because you were channeling their spirit guides and passing the message from their spirit guides through you to them without you knowing it. So the two things that I help people do is I help people be aware and conscious of what we've been doing all our life. Everybody does this. And the second thing is help them to do it at much more advanced levels. And the reason why is because, again, can you imagine how much better the world would be if everyone was doing this at really advanced levels and they were doing what they were really meant to do with their lives? And it
Yeah.
helps in all the areas of their life. So, Kevin, in my opinion, channeling is the foundation to all spirituality.
Yes.
And I say this with absolute confidence because if you don't have channeling, what are you doing? You're just guessing, you're winging it. It's sporadic, it's happen chance. But when you actually know what you're doing, you're conscious of it, you're aware of it, and you're able to do it at advanced levels, then the possibilities are unlimited. And then you actually know what you're doing. If you, no matter what other spiritual modalities you're doing, if you're doing an energy healing, you can actually channel and not just guess or wing it. If you're doing any other modalities, you can actually know what you're doing. You can tune into your spirit guides, have them work with you. You can check and verify. You can take it to much more advanced levels, whatever those modalities are for the spiritual modalities you're working on. And yeah, it's I'm very, very passionate about this, as you can tell.
I love it. And you give me goosebumps. Um, and I keep hearing spirituality is meant to be.
Fun. Yeah, so that's my slogan. Can I just share real quick how that came about?
Yes, please
Um,
do.
I noticed in my first opening, like awakening years, the first 8 to 10 years, I was like really just heavy and serious. I was doing that inner work. I was always walking around like carrying the cross everywhere I go, and I noticed that not just for me, but for everybody. Everybody was like that in the spirituality industry. I was like, and then eventually, after about 8 years of this, I was like, well, Ken, why are you so serious all the time? And what's like, why does it have to be so heavy and so serious? And so I asked my spirit guides, I'm like, okay, well, what's the opposite of that? And they're like, oh, well, it's fun. And then so I'm like, okay, well, why not make spirituality fun? Like, why not make that the slogan of my company? And what I like, so now, when I did that though, I noticed that my growth went from like this because I'm trudging along to like this, and then it totally accelerated. Why?
Yeah.
Because I was actually having fun with it. I was playing with it. I was excited about it. And don't get me wrong, there's a time and place where you have to delve into the heavy stuff, the serious stuff, but you do that briefly, and then you go back into the fun. And if the majority of the time you can make spirituality fun, it just makes the journey so much more like pleasant, and not just pleasant, but also the in my experience, not just with me, but my students now, since I've been doing this slogan for many over a decade now, that like the growth has been exponential for my students as well.
Well, that's something that I noticed when I took your course. Was I remember thinking, oh, it was 2 days, 8 hours a day, and I was just like, I remember that first day, and I came in, I sat in my chair. It was probably the same chair, and I went, okay, here we go, serious time. And in comes this guy, and he's got the biggest smile, and he's got energy coming through. And we did it on Zoom. It was right in the middle of COVID,
Yeah.
and we did it over Zoom, and there was, I think, 8 of us in the class, and his energy hit me, and I was like, what the? But it changed my mindset from being, oh, this isn't supposed to be all woo woo and woo, being brought up as a from a very strict Roman Catholic lady. When you went to church, there was no fun to be had.
Mm.
You followed a book, and you read from the book, and you had prayers that you read from, and that's my brain set of what spirituality was, because that's the only thing I knew. Now, of course, as I said before, I always saw things, heard things, felt things. And I would ask people, I'm like, did you see that? And they'd be like, no. And I'd be like, oh, okay. Neither did I. Right? Because you don't want to be that odd guy out. But then again, that first 10 minutes, I'll never forget it. It changed everything for me, where it was like, oh, so spirituality is not religion. Spirituality is, and I'm going to point to you and I'm going to get you to answer it. Spirituality is,
Fun.
but
Spirituality. So yeah, that's a good point. Like, I'm not against any religion or anything like that. There's a lot of them out there that, and if you actually read through the major religions of the earth, of the planet, there's actually a lot of good in them. And there's so if you take pieces from them, there's actually a lot of good in them. What spirituality is basically when you're like connected directly to spirit, and you're constantly communicating with your spirit guides. You're not making stuff. So that's one thing that I want to really emphasize, is that I make spirituality very practical, because we're
yeah,
meant to be like actually apply it on this earth. It's not just meant to be some woo woo stuff that we're out there. So like um we like way back, they didn't have the technology, but now they have the technology to prove that your spirit guides exist. And so when we connect with our spirit guides and we start to fellowship with our spirit guide team, we get to know who they are and how they're here to help us. Then we could start applying this in our everyday life, in our work life, our career life, our relationships, our passions, our purpose, our hobbies, our health, and on and on and on. And we can actually start to apply it in real practical earth ways. And again, there's nothing wrong with like, I have a lot of people from every possible demographics, every possible religion that come across my path, and I tell them, I say, if you don't want to change your religion, don't, like, keep it, and please do if you want to, and it's working for you, and it's good for you. And I know a lot of my students, even after they've taken all my training, they still have their faith, they have their religion. I'm good, and I tell them, I say, what I'm going to teach you will complement what your religion already teaches you.
yes.
It was complemented. So just it's an enhancer. It enhances, and when we get to know our spirit guide team, then we could start to apply it in our everyday life. We can start to be like, oh, should I apply for this job or that job, or or maybe both, should I, what's a good healthy, like something for my health? I might want to make some health decisions, or which practitioner do I see? What path do I go down? I always tell people also, please use common sense.
What's
I'm
that?
like, I'm like, sometimes people go too extreme on this stuff. It's like,
Yes.
you know, like, just drink lots of water, right? Like stuff like that. Like, don't overcomplicate things. Um, Use common sense in your everyday life as well, and work with your spirit guides to enhance your everyday life, to make it, like, think of them like collaborators. When you get to more advanced levels and you're channeling your spirit guides on a regular basis, I do recommend that you try to, some people don't like this word, but if you hear it in context, let's surrender to your spirit guides. And the reason that this came about, Kevin, was because for the first many years, 8 to 10 years, I was constantly back and forth with my spirit guides. Like I would listen to them and amazing things would happen. And then I wouldn't listen to them. And then my life would fall apart because I would be doing my own stupid, decisions and all that. And then I'd be like, okay, fine, eat the humble pie. And then I would like, channeling them again, listening to them, and everything would be going great, and not just great and amazing, but like phenomenal, like super amazing. And then I would stop listening to them, and then my whole life, and then like, have you ever had a time in your life when you were meant to do something but you didn't do it, and then you missed that opportunity?
Yes.
Or have you ever had a time in your life when you weren't meant to do something? They're like, don't do it, but you did it anyways, and then it turned out horribly? Because our spirit guides have this higher perspective and they could see things from that vantage point that we may not be able to see. So when they're like, do something, it's because it's trying to lead you into a good path. Or if they're like, don't do this, because they could see the outcome that's going to happen, which might not be good for you, and then you do it anyways and it turns out horribly, and you're like, dang it, I should have listened to them. So I always encourage my spirit guides to be in a state, like in an empowering way, a state of surrender with your spirit guides. They're not here to tell you and force you what to do, but they're here to co-collaborate your life. And
Yeah.
because they have that higher perspective from the fourth dimension, from the astral realm, they can help navigate you to amazing things and amazing outcomes in all the areas of your life, and really manifest the dreams of your life, like what you really want to do, what you're really meant to do with your life in all the areas, not just spirituality.
So I'm going to go back just a little bit because I know we have people on all levels of life spiritually. So we have people who I know for a fact we have people who are just stepping into spirituality and they don't understand anything. So where we're talking, sometimes you and I can get to a pretty high level. But even just talking about spirit guides, sometimes people are like, spirit guides, what are you guys talking about? So if you had that question come up, what are spirit guides? What's the best way to kind of describe what they are?
Yeah, great question. Our spirit guides, when we die and we cross over, we go to the astral realm to be with our soul family. While we're incarnated, certain members of our soul family help and assist us, and these are our spirit guides. Most people have 3 to 5 spirit guides, has been my experience over the 20 years I've been teaching people how to channel, and sometimes 2, sometimes 6, but usually in that 3 to 5 range. And our spirit guides are people like you and I in non-physical form. Like my experience has been, most people's spirit guides are people you've known from past lifetimes, not from this lifetime. And each spirit guide helps and assists in a different way, different capacity, different area of your life. Each spirit guide has different characteristics, attributes, and qualities about them that make them unique and different, just like incarnated humans. Each one has different personality traits and all that stuff. So that's who our spirit guides are. And they're people like you and I, and they're here to help and support us in all the areas of our life.
That is
And
what a
yeah, and they can change as well. Like they can change throughout different seasons of our life. So it's not set in stone that, you can have a spirit guide that's with you for your entire life, or you can have ones that come and go throughout different seasons of your life. And so the amount that you can have can change during different seasons of your life, and also who you have can also change. But we're not talking about like every week or anything. We're talking like a major shift in your life. And then that's when you can get one that steps back and then another one who steps in to help you with that next phase of your evolution.
I remember the first time I had a change in my spirit guides. I don't know if you remember this conversation. I was like, what the? They can't just leave. Like, these are people who they're here. What do you mean they're leaving? They can't just get up and leave me. And you're like, dude, you're changing. You're going to get new guides all the time as you continuously grow. And I was like, oh, so getting new guides is actually a good thing because that means you're progressing in life.
Right. So what do we do, Kevin, when we get a new spirit guide? We
Celebrate.
celebrate. Why do we celebrate? Because we're entering a new phase, a new season of our life, a new chapter. And then you ask questions like, okay, who is this new guide? How can they help me? How can we work together to maximize this new phase? What is this new phase? How can I collaborate with this guide to make the most out of this new chapter of my life? Like get excited about it because it's actually a really big deal.
Well, yeah. And now when my guides change, I'm like, oh, what's happening? Oh, let's go.
Right.
I'm excited because I know now that there's new things in my horizon, which is very, very cool. As you know, my life changed drastically over the last year, and I've
Yeah,
had guides change quite quickly. It was like, oh, okay, okay, we're doing this now. Oh, okay, now we're doing this. Okay, and you know what? And I have you to thank for it. Is I would never be where I am if it wasn't for July 12th, 2020. Um,
yeah.
and I'm able to, like you said, surrender. Um, and I wish I could say I listen to them 100% of the time. It's 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year. I would be lying, and they would call my butt out on it because we're still human. We still have this thing up here called the brain, and we have this thing called free will.
Yeah. Yeah.
When we sorry, I lost my train of thought. I was going somewhere, then I went this way.
So it's interesting because like exercise your free will. I tell people, I say try it on your own, see how that works out for you, and also try it with your spirit guides. Like see what happens and experiment. And I encourage my like people. I say like take the pressure off yourself. Nobody's going to be 100% perfect all the time. Even me, I try to channel my spirit guides as much as possible. I try to follow their guidance. There's times I like, put my foot in my mouth or like, Ken, don't say it, don't say it. I do it anyways. And then I'm like, dang it. And they're like, it was like, even to this day. So just give yourselves a break but do experiment with it is my encouragement. So two things. One is if you're brand new, just try to feel the presence of your spirit guides around you. Try to get to know who they are. Again, most people have somewhere between 3 to 5 spirit guides. Just go gentle with yourself. Don't think it's going to be perfect. You're going to, as you grow with your connection and your fellowshipping with your spirit guides and you get to know them, if you get accurate answers 10% of the time, that's 10% more than when you started. And then over time, as you practice, if it goes up to 20%, then that's 20% more than before you started this. So just be gentle with yourself. The days of beating yourself up are over. Just give yourself some grace. You're going to be fallible. We're all, human, and we're not going to be perfect at it. Even I'm not. So I'm saying this to, like even Ken said, he's not perfect. I'm not, and that's okay.
I'm not even gonna touch
But I,
that.
but I try my best. The point is, though, is I try my best to do those two things. When I get guidance to do something, I try to do it immediately, not like right away. I try not to delay on it. And then when I get guidance not to do something, I try to refrain and hold back and not and resist myself or refrain myself from doing that because I know it's going to turn out poorly. And again, I'm not perfect, but more times than not, I'm better at this. As the years go on, I keep practicing this.
Well, it's just like anything else. I'm a sports guy, as you know, and I use sports analogies quite often and relate them to spirituality. And when I'm talking to someone who's frustrated or saying they ran into a brick wall down their path, I'm like, do you think someone like probably like the greatest hockey player of our time, Wayne Gretzky, do you think he became the greatest just because he was gifted and here's a hockey stick, you're going to be the greatest in the world? No, he took 1 million shots at his parents' garage, and I bet
Yeah,
you 10 million of those didn't hit where he wanted to. But he never gave up. He kept practicing
yeah.
and practicing and practicing.
And you
So,
say a really, you say a real key word there, Kevin. It's practice. Like one of my yoga teachers way back, she would say to the group, she's like, "This is not yoga perfection. This
mhm,
is a yoga practice." And so I tell my students, this isn't a channeling perfection, it's a channeling practice. And
yeah.
you never get to a point in your yoga journey where you're perfect at it. Like there's always more to it. There's different poses. There's different like what I liked about her, she was a very traditional kind of yoga teacher where she included the spiritual component of yoga, which was beautiful because that's actually yoga is 90 whatever percent spiritual with some poses, but it's what you do when you're in those poses and you're in a tough pose and it's like, are you focusing on your breath? Are you being present? And add the spiritual component to it. So there's no limit to how deep you can go with yoga. It's a spiritual practice, and same thing with channeling. It's a channeling practice.
Exactly. And you know what? That is something that I've learned over the last 6 years. And the other thing I've learned is it never ends. I
Right.
remember somebody asking me, one of my clients, and they said, "Well, when does the healing stop?" And I did exactly what you just did. I kind of giggled and went, um, "Never. Even when we go home as a soul, we still have healing to do when we're there." What when someone comes to you, and I'm going to kind of change that question with everything that's going on in the world. It's so freaking heavy right now. All you got to
Yeah.
do is pick up your phone and look at social media, turn the TV on, and you can
Yeah.
see how just messed up, in my words, the world is right now. When someone comes to you and they feel that heaviness, what do you do? What's your initial reaction to that?
Well, there's a couple things. I have over 100 different healing modalities. So I do healing and clearing as well. I do monthly healing events. I do all sorts, and I include the healing as part of my training. And the reason I never used to, but I started realizing after many years of not including it, I would just do the mechanics of how to channel and all that. And then I realized like some of my students had blocks and things that were hindering. So I'm like, why don't I just do some healing on them and then clear those blocks and then they're off to the races. So the other thing though is I know this might sound a little bit harsh, but I'm like, I truly believe that us as a society, we can get to like the Star Trek, 23, Stargate 23, whatever, where we've gone through our wars and all these like low level energies and stuff like that, hatred, anger. And we're not just talking about like countries fighting against each other. We're also talking about families, friends, coworkers, and like stuff on an individual basis that we've evolved as a species, and that we can surpass this, surpass this, like overcome where we are as a species to get to a point where we're traveling in the stars, and we realized as a species we've evolved beyond this. And that's why, like, hang in there. Like, I do this because I truly believe in as us as a species, that we're not doomed. We're going to get through this. We're going to we might have some struggles, but think of it like this. If you have like Washington D.C., this was like over a decade ago. There's Washington D.C. has a very high crime rate, and these meditators decided they're like, okay, we're going to come into Washington D.C. and do meditate on peace and love for the city. And before they did that, the meditators, some of them, they came and went to the police chief, went to the mayor, and said, we're going to reduce crime by, I don't know, like 8 or 10%, something like that, like a huge amount when we come in and do the prayer, like these meditations for the city. So, and that the police chief and the mayor were like, this is bogus, this is impossible, there's no possible way that you could do this. And sure enough, meditators from all over the world came into Washington, D.C. and started praying love and peace for the city. And the amount that the crime rate went down was exactly the amount that the meditators said. So, us as a collective, like if you think of 10 or 15 years ago, how many yoga studios existed? Not that many. But look how many there are now. Same thing with spirituality. Like, not many people were into spirituality when I first started doing this 20 years ago. But look how many people are kind of open to it now, and it's sort of like, okay, and maybe there's something more to this, and experimenting with it and trying it and playing with it. And that's where we're going as a collective. So we're going through that like critical mass point where we're getting to that point where we're starting to shift and change and realizing that the old school ways of our parents and grandparents doing things, isn't serving us anymore. We have to do things differently. And that's where I strongly believe in what's the word I'm looking for, Kevin? The humanity, like that we can do this as a human race.
Yes,
We
I
can
know what you're
overcome.
trying to say, and I can't. The words there. Do you? We talked about this many, many years ago that we plan our lives. When before we come here, we sit with our guides and we plan out our lives. Having said that, is everything that's happening in the world, in the society right now, is it supposed to be happening?
As a collective, it's already like that's a really good question. Okay, so yeah, this is a very sophisticated question, and I'm channeling live, just so
Yes.
you know. I'm not just making this stuff up. If you look at prophets like Nostradamus, what the reason why Nostradamus is so accurate is because he was able to tune into the collective as a society and see where we're going as a collective.
Yes.
And so this is already, as a collective, this is part of the path of the collective. When it
Yes.
comes to an individual on an individual basis, it's not necessarily set in stone. When before we incarnate, we work with our spirit guides, usually ascended masters from our soul family, so very high level souls in our soul family. We work with them to create what I call a rough blueprint of our life. And then before we incarnate, so there's a period before we incarnate where we're not available for people to channel us. We're like in this containment area, and we're working with our these ascended masters in our soul family to prep and get us ready for incarnation. And then we do things like we choose where we want to be born, who our parents are going to be, what society it's going to be in, and on and on and on. And then when we're born as a baby, we have kind of like a blueprint, a path that we want to go down, trajectories. But I say the word trajectories or rough blueprint because we have free will and we can make different decisions. But also, especially when we're young, other people have free will that can impose on us. So, for example, when I was a teenager, I was living in a city. There was a lot of I was into my party scene and doing all that kind of stuff. And my dad got a job offer in another city, but that other city had a lot of crime in it, like a lot of crime and gangs and really, really bad stuff. And he was kind of trying to choose, like, should I uproot my family and move to this other city because it would be good pay and a good job, or should I just stay with less pay in the city that we're in? And really, that would be a healthier environment to raise my children. And had he chosen to move to that other city, I would have been on a totally different life path.
Oh, yes.
So that's where, because I wouldn't have had a choice, because I didn't have like money to fend for myself. Like I was a child still,
Yes.
so I needed to be. So that's where other people's free will can also influence the path that we go down. And
Yes.
then as an adult, we still have free will and we still have other people's free will. So that's why I call it a rough blueprint. So let's say, for example, I was living in Edmonton, Canada, and I got the guidance very clearly, move to Calgary in 2014. And I was like, Calgary, why would I move to Calgary? Like all of a sudden, like, okay. So again, listen to your spirit guide's guidance. And then sometimes you don't always know why you're meant to do something until afterward, until hindsight. So what did I do? I I picked up all my stuff, threw it in a U-Haul, and I drove down to Calgary. And then my life that's expanded. That's where I met you, and like my whole life and trajectory changed. But that's because I'm getting goosebumps everywhere. My dad came in,
I like
and
it.
that, but that's where we have. If I had chosen to stay in Edmonton, it wouldn't necessarily be good or bad, right or wrong. I would just be on a different life path, a different trace. If you think of
Yeah.
like a circuit board, I'd be going down a different track, a different
Yeah.
trace.
You would still be the same person, just doing different things.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. You'd still be Ken. You'd still be called Ken Lewicki. You might be in prison.
yeah, yeah. And that's where we have like doppelgangers and all that other. That's another complex
Oh
subject.
my goodness. Now we're going to see. I told you folks, when Ken and I get going, we can take it to levels where both of us, we finish talking, we look at each other and go, where did that come from?
Different timelines, doppelgangers. Yeah, I actually do teach about this. That's advanced.
It's
Channel.
way advanced, way advanced. And there's some people listening going, yeah, yeah, yeah. And other people going, "Hmm?
Yeah.
What are they
Or
talking
and I'm not afraid to tell people now. I used to be like a closet spiritual person, and I'm like I teach people how to channel like sprites and fairies and dragons and
Yeah.
crystal divas and angels, and I honor that. Like I'm like, okay, everyone, get your crystals out and let's start channeling some crystal divas, and they're like, what?
I got 'em.
And,
I even got a dragon.
yeah, dragon. See, and it's like, oh, I'm gonna give you a Merkaba
Oh,
upgrade, and
there it is.
yes,
Ah,
yes, yes, I got it.
whew,
Yeah.
goosebumps. It's funny. I'm getting back to doing markets. And I say it
Yeah.
that way, folks, because when my first time doing markets, I was helping Ken at a market he was doing, and we were using those Merkabobs. And I was blown away as much as anybody that came to our table was blown away because I'm like, I've never heard of the word. I had to get Ken to get me pronounce Merkabob right because it was like, I'm like, huh? What's that word? He's like, I had no idea. And he had me putting it on people's foreheads, and they were holding it. And you could see the physical change in them when they did. It was bizarre.
Yeah.
But I'm getting
Make
back to doing markets. I'm actually, Angela
make it
and
by
I are doing a
activations.
market
Yeah.
on this. When are we doing it? On Saturday, Sunday. This Saturday and Sunday, we're doing a market.
Nice.
In Medicine Hat. It's cool. Um, what are you like? We've talked about it kind of briefly, and you've mentioned it that this is what you do. You teach people to channel. Where do you do that? Like, how do people get to you if you're not where they are?
Yeah. I do everything online, but I treat it like it's like as in person as it can be, just because I have clients all over the world. Like this is every continent you can imagine. I get clients. Um, And the two ways is one is you can go to my website, channelinginc.com. You can see it there, and you can go there, and then you can actually see all the trainings that I have available that are online. And then the other way is I'm actually doing retreats, so you can come to exotic places in the world like Bali or Costa Rica, Thailand, all that, and you can do these like full week retreats, or you can do them both. And a lot of people
Nice.
do also choose to do that. And then I have intro classes and other events that I have on my website that you can see that you can also attend.
And
Yeah,
they're all at channelinginc.com or through your Facebook page.
that's right. Channelinginc.com. Yeah. So that's the
Excellent.
name of my company is Channeling Incorporated. This is what I do all day, every day for a living. I dedicate my life to this. This is my passion. This is my life's purpose is to give people the foundation of channeling so that what they do with that, they can do amazing things with it and apply it into however they want to apply it, whether it's just for fun or whether they want to be a practitioner. And some people like they have no intention of doing that, but then they take the courses and the trainings. They're like, oh, maybe I could do this to make some side money. And, next thing you know, they're doing it full time like Kevin.
I had no intention of doing what I do now when I first took that course. Not even the slightest. Not
Well, you can't even pick in a dragon. So,
I mean, obviously, Ellison, my ex-girlfriend, she had followed Ken and his ex, and she had been to a bunch of events you were talking about there, where you used to fill a room with 30, 40 people and do your kind of intro to spirit guides thing.
yeah.
And she'd come home and she'd just be like, you should have seen this. Oh my God. And I'd be like, oh, okay, I'm glad you're having fun. That's good. And really, it was just that's what it was for me. And it wasn't until I took that first course. And I tell people all the time, um, I've been in sales all my life. So when you have a client in sales, if I sold cars. So if I sold you a car, I'm never going to recommend you go to somebody else to buy another car because I want you to buy a car from me.
Yeah.
It's amazing how many times I have clients where I'm doing mediumship readings for them. And I say, you know what? You don't need me to do this. You need to learn this by yourself. And I remember when I first started, it was like, this is the worst business practice I've ever experienced because you're telling clients, you don't need me. Go and learn to do it. And you know what? I've had many, many clients reach out to Ken and they're now doing what I do.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
2026. I know you're not a predictor of the future. And I'm going to kind of throw something at you. And you can see he's looking at me like, where are you going with this? What do you see 2026? How do you see it progressing for the world? Do you see a decline? Do you see an incline as far as everything that's going on?
It's interesting. This year's been significantly different because almost every year when the new year comes, December 31st, January 1st, like I could feel it building. I'm like, woo, we're going into that new year and all the New Year's resolutions and excited for the new year and all that. And this year felt different. It really did. It wasn't your typical kind of new year. And I've been telling my students this in my classes this for many months now. And okay, so January 1st came and went, and I'm like, it still doesn't feel like the new year. And then people kept mentioning about the Chinese New Year, and I was like, I've never really followed that. I was like, whatever. But now, once right around that same date approximately, I'm like, okay, now we're in the 2026 new year. Like, this is the new year. And what I really feel, and this is the honest truth, Kevin, is I really feel that this year is a year of like change in a good way. I feel like there's a lot of like good manifesting that's going to happen. I could feel like in myself on an individual basis, this is a year of like action when we're
Yes.
going to start to actually change things, and take action. And this is already happening in my life. Like, I'm like super like active in a good way, like busy and doing manifesting and creating new projects for my business so I can really reach more of the masses. I'm already reaching the masses now, but doing it on a more scalable level where it's like, instead of thousands of people, it's tens of thousands, maybe even hundreds of thousands of people. And I really feel like I'm tuning into it right now. And there's going to be some bumps along the road, but I really feel the overall trajectory going on an upward scale.
Nice. Nice. I like to hear that. We can use
Yeah.
some positivity
Yeah,
in.
and I tell people also, like, there's always going to be stuff going on in the world, and it just kind of like those meditators. Like, what are they doing? They're sending positive to the world. They're doing their own healing, their own clearing, and they're sending love and light to the world and to themselves. And one of the best ways, like Dalai Lama talks a lot about this, is the best ways to have world peace is start with inner peace. And yes, do the actions as well. Like, if there's causes and other things that you're really passionate about, while you're working on the inner peace and telling you the self-love and telling yourself I love you, you're also working on those other causes, and you're using your spirit guides, your channeling, to be able to navigate those paths in your lives that you can make an impact and a positive impact in the world, in the external world, but also work on the inner world as well. And us as a collective, again, we're coming through this like the critical mass, this tipping point in our consciousness, our collective consciousness, where if we continue doing our own healing as we're going through this journey on an individual basis, they ripple out to our family, our friends, our society, our country, and then eventually the world. And that's how we get world peace as well, one of the contributing ways.
You know what? I tried an experiment. As you know, I was living in downtown Calgary, one block off 17th Ave, which is the main street, and it's the main drag in Calgary. It's where all the bars, all the restaurants are in downtown. And I was feeling down one day, and I was just off. And I thought, okay, I'm going to counsel with my guides, and I did. And they said, we want you to go for a walk. And every single person you walk by, we want you to smile at and say hi. And I was like, okay, I'm going to listen to you. And I did.
Yeah.
I walked out 17th, and I walked all the way down 17th, right down to the Saddle Dome. So like 18, 19 blocks, and then back. And every single person I walked by, I smiled at and I said hi. It did two things. It changed my mood. It put me into a way better mood. But I know for a fact, just by watching people, it changed other people's moods, because I had one guy in particular, you could see him. I could see him away, and he would go, and he got to me, and I smiled and I said, good morning. And I didn't stop. I just continued. And out of the corner of my eye, I could see him stop and go, and he laughed, right? But I know for a fact he probably told that story to like 10 different people that day,
Yeah.
and laughed and thought it was the funniest thing he's ever seen, because who does that?
So let's take this one step further, though, Kevin, is what that's actually doing for you on a cellular level. It's actually healing you. When we send those positive energies, positive vibes into ourselves, it's actually healing ourselves. It's like, this is a form of healing. Not a lot of people, people have this weird, different like idea in their mind what healing is. They think looks a certain way, and there's so many gazillion different healing ways of receiving healing. And one of them is what I call like laughter healing, or joy healing. Like, there's healing through joy, healing through laughter. So for example, they'll have a hospital, for example, is that they'll have people from the outside come in, so like comedians or clowns and things like that, to come in and make the the patients laugh. And they found that the patients who attend these events on a regular basis, their recovery is much quicker than the ones who don't attend.
Yes.
So what's happening is every time, like, I'll put on like stand-up comedy and stuff like that, and I'll watch and I'll be intentional about doing that because I know that that's creating those happy vibes in my body and it's actually healing within me. And then, Kevin, take it a step further. What you're doing for that other person is you're changing their state from being all grumpy and serious, and which is not healthy. It's the opposite of it. And then changing it for them, like not for them, but helping them to go, oh, maybe there's, I could laugh at that guy with the big grin on his face and smiling and saying hello to me. It's like, what?
It's,
And
it reminds
that
me,
ripples out to the world. Yeah.
you hosted a small get together in downtown Calgary with Kamel. Do you remember Kamel?
Yeah. Yeah.
And at the end of that, Kamel did a breath workshop. You did a spirit guide connecting with your spirit guide workshop. And then at the end, you had everybody stand in a circle. And there was, I think, 6 of us. And you said, just start laughing.
Yeah.
And I thought, what is he doing? Like, this is the weirdest thing I've ever seen. But I'll never forget the look on everybody's faces as all 6 adults stood in a circle and laughed and laughed and laughed. And at first it was, ha, 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 ha. It was a fake laugh to start with. But then as it continued, we all started laughing really hard. And you could see people's face change as they
Right.
did it. It was a cool experiment. I liked it.
I actually met a guy. So this is actually true. It's called laughing yoga. And he actually hosts the largest laughing yoga in the world. Like he, he broke a Guinness Book World Record for over 1,000 people, Kevin. He would
Just
have like
sitting
a whole
laughing.
field just laughing, and he would do his thing, and the whole entire like crowd would be like doing laughter yoga.
That's hilarious. I
But there's
love it.
healing in laughter. There's healing in joy, and that's why I tell people, like, be very intentional about it. Don't just be like, well, if I happen to laugh, okay, great. Like, of course, do your healing, do your clearing. Try to keep conversations light once in a while. And don't get me wrong, there's a time and place to be serious or deep and all that. That's fine too, but try to be intentional about like adding some comedy in your life, keeping
Yes.
things light, whether it's with friends or bantering with people. And Kevin and I laugh about, we like tease each other all the time, and we'd laugh about the silliest things like his hair or something like that, and I'm like,
Hey, don't be bugging my hair, mister.
see, you know, spirituality is meant to be what?
It meant to be fun.
Life is meant to be what?
Fun.
Fun. And then when you do both together, like I tell people, so if anyone's watching this and you want to write this down, write this one. If you get one thing from this, it's flirt with life.
Oh my goodness. I love that. Say it again.
Flirt with life.
Yes.
Just flirt. Like when you're like flirting with, somebody that you find attractive or whatever, and you're kind of like goofing and like kind of teasing and courting and, like being like silly and kind of like getting those butterflies, and, ooh, right? Do that with life.
Oh,
Do that
more
with life.
people need to hear that.
Just flirt with life. Like experiment, try it. Just like you're flirting with somebody that you're attracted to, but do it with life and see what happens and watch the magic and the serendipities and the synchronicities unfold, and like all of a sudden you're like all this like magical stuff happenings on a regular basis because you're flirting with life.
Ken, I love it because what I find in the spiritual community, especially when you go to like a spirit fair, or there's everybody seems to try to be way too serious. And here I am being the goofy guy that I am because I can't be any other way. It's just who I am. And they're all looking at me going, what are you doing? And I'm like, this is supposed to be fun, people. We're talking to dead people. How
Yeah.
cool is that? It's not
Well,
supposed to be.
and if you also look at it like on a spiritual level, when our spirit guides, they see us from their perspective, and they're looking down and they're observing us from their perspective. They can see what happens to our soul, how it just lights up when we're in joy, how it
Yeah.
lights up when we're in happiness, how it lights up when we're in laughter and play. Like they can see this from their perspective, and I can feel it. Everyone can feel it, but a lot of us aren't aware of it. And yeah, like have fun, people. Have fun out there.
You know what? I'm going to leave it with that because we couldn't end this any better than both of us giggling our like school kids. Ken, I can't express the love I have for you. You have come into my life when I needed you the most, and you've always been there. Um, Even though we're a million miles apart, and you said you were going away for a month, and it was way longer, and but we're still there. And you only meet certain people in your life, and I always tell people some people were meant to come in your life and they were meant to be there for a page or a chapter of your book. Other people you meet halfway through your life and they're meant to be with you for the full book. I honestly believe that you're meant to be here for the full book. And I want to thank you. And I don't think guys say this enough in public when they express their love. And I do. I have that love for you that you just can't put into words. So I want everybody to know it. And if you really, really are serious about learning to channel, folks, that's the guy to go. Oops, I always point the wrong way. That's the guy to go to. He is the guy. I'm not kidding. I have four certificates on the wall. Like I say, I probably should have about 30 more for all the time Ken and I have just counseled and counseled.
Sorry.
Is that you ringing?
Yeah, it's getting a call from my spirit guides. You know.
There you go. Channeling. When Ken says channeling is a basis for everything, he really means that. Doesn't matter where you go from that, you can take it to whichever direction you want. But first thing you need to do, in my book, and is channel. No matter what, whether you want to become a Reiki master or Akashic Records, we can go on and name all the different modalities.
Yeah.
All of it, the base of it all is channeling.
Yeah. Yeah. Or if you just want to learn it for fun, just because it's like something that you're curious about and it's personal development, and you just want to like learn about, what are these things? And yeah, like it's a really foundational kind of thing to learn. Like, how could you not have, like, I mean, we're all spiritual. We cannot not be spiritual, but why not learn like the foundation of spirituality? And that's channeling.
Dude, thank you so much. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to put you in the green room as I say goodbye, and we're going to chat afterwards. Folks, thank you all for tuning in. We had so many people tune in. I first had said I'm going to do this on a monthly basis, but my guides had different plans. So now it's going to be probably weekly. It won't be next week, but I am on the March 24th. I have the distinct pleasure once again of interviewing Emery Christie from Medicine Hat, Alberta. I'm not going to go into a long story with her about her right now, but keep up to date with my Facebook and you will learn a whole bunch more. Until then, take care, and we will see you Monday as Angela and I do the Monday night healing. No, Monday night healing. The Healing Hearts on a Monday night. We will talk to you.